Have you ever procrastinated? Have you ever crammed the day before a test and tried to stuff all the information into your head at once? Well, if you have, we have something in common. Today, I'm gonna share what helped me to become a little bit more consistent and to procrastinate a little bit less. What's up? I'm Noah. And when I was in high school, I could not study more than 1 to 2 days in advance for a test. It was simply not possible. Now, it over the years, over the last 2 years, it got a little bit better. And if you watched one of my previous videos, you know I talk about a university selection process for psychology, and that took place in the beginning of 2024. And for that, I was able to study 6 weeks in advance for every single day. Now, I know on the internet there are people who study way more and study way harder and for way more hours in a day than I do, and they share that. But still, it's been a huge success, at least for me, because my level of student previously was so low. Now, why wasn't I consistent in the first place? So I think a lot of us, or at least I learned that I was able to pass tests without studying too much. So I learned that I was able to get away with it. Also, it wasn't so important for me to get really good grades. I was fine with being okay, so with having good grades, but not very good grades. And also, I had that thought, or I always thought, I have to study for 2 hours or at once, and I don't know, I made like plans for myself, study plans that I never did go through with them for like a week, and I had to study five days at once, and I didn't understand that I wasn't at that level of studying it. I wasn't even able to pull off 1 hour of studying at a time and not get distracted. So my advice to myself is be humble and make it smaller. And I think there's a technique that's called 5 minute technique. So you say, I'm only gonna study for 5 minutes and then I'm done. It's okay. But if I want to, I continue after the 5 minutes. And what I did was kind of similar, but I didn't tie it to like 5 minutes or anything, because sometimes 5 minutes is too much for you. And so I think everybody has that inner voice that doesn't like effort, and that does argument against putting effort into anything. So that says, I just want to lay on the couch all day and watch Netflix or something. So I try to beat that inner voice with its own weapons. So I make it so easy to show up every day and study consistently. So I count, I don't know, just reading one page as studying sometimes, just so I can argument with myself and get myself to get up and study. I mean, in the end, mostly or most often, you end up studying more than that because you get into it and you recognize that it isn't that hard. But some days, you just read that one page and you make it count. You're not too arrogant to not make it count. That does count. You're humble and you make it count. And what that does over time is it creates an identity. So you can then say to yourself and tell that story of yourself that you are somebody who is able to be a consistent student because you did show up every day. So that was the most important thing for me, to create that identity of becoming a consistent student. And I once read The Atomic Habits by James Clear, and he pointed out that behavior and identity is always very linked, so linked to each other. And from an identity stems behavior, and behavior also influences identity. And if you once did put in the effort to create an identity of a consistent student who can study in advance, I think it gets way easier to study. Which also helps if the goal that you study for or the test that you study for is important to you. And actually in the selection process for me, it was also a big factor that I didn't know how much I had to put in. So then it's very unpredictable for you. And if it's important for you, you try to put in more and more effort so you can make sure that you actually get that grade or that goal that you wanted. So yeah, that's my advice. Make it small in the beginning, be humble, and recognize your small successes.